In this video, you're going to see 5 precious stones that you can actually find out in nature. But why should you care about that? Very different from other gemstones that stand out in nature with bright colors and intense sparkle, black gemstones are much more discreet, but just as valuable. That's why the chances that you've walked right past a precious stone in the wild and totally ignored it are much higher than you think. Most people look, assume it's just a rock, and throw it back on the ground. But in some places, especially in river gravels or along roads that cut through metamorphic and volcanic rocks, that little black pebble might be a real gemstone, like this tourmaline on your screen right now that was found right on the roadside. Because it's dark, anyone walking past would never even notice that a precious stone was sitting there. But for someone with the right knowledge, spotting it is much easier. That doesn't mean finding valuable stones is easy. It means that if you know what I'm going to show you in this video, when those opportunities show up, you won't let them slip away. That's why we picked 5 black gems with real gemological and commercial potential that you can find in the right geological settings, especially in some regions where you live. And the first thing you'll notice is that every gemstone appears in places that follow geological patterns. Every precious stone is tied to certain rock types like schist, gneiss, marble, granitic pegmatite, or basalts with quartz veins. And we're going to break that down in more detail. Once you understand where a sapphire usually shows up, what kind of rock spinel grows in, how garnet concentrates in gravel, and what a black opal nodule looks like from the outside, everything gets much easier. You'll start reading the signs in the ground and saying whether a place has real potential for gemstones or not. And as a bonus, everything you learn here can also be used to find gemstones of other colors as well. The first and easiest one to find is black tourmaline, also known as schorl. This gem has already appeared in other videos as a mineral that's relatively easy to find in granitic pegmatites. Here, the difference is our focus on its gem potential. Not all black tourmaline is just rough material with no use in jewelry. In many pegmatites, which are its most common host rock, especially in regions with a history of producing colorful tourmaline, some of the black crystals have enough quality to be cut into faceted stone or polished cabochons, turning into gems used in rings, bracelets, and modern jewelry designs. Pegmatites are coarse-grained igneous rocks made of large crystals of quartz, feldspar, and mica, plus accessory minerals like tourmaline. In the field, you recognize a pegmatite by its texture. Big crystals, sometimes several centimeters long, mostly light in color. In the middle of that white or pink matrix, black tourmaline shows up as dark columns, rods, and prisms with strong lengthwise striations. In some zones, you may find pockets with thicker, well-formed crystals, a good sign that conditions were favorable for gem growth. With hardness around 7 to 7.5, tourmaline sits in the same range as quartz and garnet in terms of scratch resistance. On fresh faces, the luster is vitreous to slightly resinous, with strong reflections, especially after polishing. Thicker, solid crystals with fewer internal fractures can be cut into long cabochons that are very popular in darker, more modern jewelry styles. And for your field routine, there's an important detail. Pegmatites that produce gem-quality black tourmaline often also produce colored tourmalines, green, pink, and even bicolor, plus other interesting minerals like beryl. In other words, learning to recognize black tourmaline as an indicator of pegmatite increases your chances of finding an entire suite of precious stones in the same outcrop. Along trails, in road cuts, and in old pegmatite mining areas, any fragment of light-colored rock with black columns embedded in it deserves a close look. And on the surface, loose tourmaline crystals may be mixed into sandy soil and gravel. A trained eye picks up on the luster, the striations, and the broken column shape. Someone who doesn't know what they're looking at just walks past. The difference between a casual rock collector and someone who's actually prepared to find gem material is exactly this ability to read a black stone as a sign, not as geological trash. This stone showing up on the screen now is a garnet. Garnet is a group of minerals that usually appears as a deep red gem and is sometimes used instead of ruby because it's more affordable. But in practice, many garnets show up in such dark tones that they look completely black. Some of the most interesting varieties from a gemological point of view include dark androdites like melanite and very dark grossular garnets. They may not have the fame of ruby or emerald, but they're noble gemstones used in jewelry and valued for their high luster and, in some cases, strong dispersion that creates internal fire flashes. Geologically, dark garnets show up in several settings: metamorphic schists and gneisses, igneous rocks like some granitoids, and in the case of andradite, skarns formed where igneous intrusions meet carbonate rocks. In the field, you'll find them both still locked into the host rock and released into river gravels. In mica schists, it's classic to see dark, little balls embedded in a light or silvery matrix of mica and quartz. In skarns, the crystals can be better shaped, sometimes with sharp dodecahedral or trapezohedral faces. In gravel, dark garnet stands out for its density and shine. In heavy mineral concentrates, right next to magnetite and ilmenite, garnet grains often show a vitreous reflection, with surfaces that still keep a good shine even when worn. When you pick up one of these grains and hold it against the light, you may see a very dark red, brown, or green hue along the edge. With hardness around 7 to 7.5, garnet scratches glass, which helps you separate it from softer metallic-looking minerals. In practice, black garnets of cuttable quality can be turned into cabochons or faceted stones, giving gems with a sophisticated look that fit perfectly into modern, minimalist jewelry. The interesting part is that, to an untrained eye, the exact same crystal just looks like a random little black rock. In metamorphic terrains, especially along the Appalachians and in parts of the western U.S., any schist or gneiss with rounded black dots is worth a careful inspection. The chances that they're garnets are high, and among dozens of common crystals, every now and then one will have the size and clarity for a beautiful cut. When we talk about classic precious stones, corundum is at the top of the list. But what is corundum exactly? It's the mineral family that includes rubies and sapphires. They're essentially the same mineral with one key difference. Red corundum is called ruby, and all other colors, including black, are considered sapphires. Because they're relatively rare, durable, and beautiful, they dominate the gem market. And most people have no idea that many of these crystals appear in nature so dark that they look black. In alluvial deposits, the gravels that build up in rivers, especially in areas with metamorphic and igneous rocks rich in aluminum, it's relatively common to find rounded corundum crystals in very dark blue, almost black, or dark gray colors. In the field and in jewelry practice, these materials are often sold as black sapphire and used in men's rings, wedding bands, pendants, and more understated designs. In the United States, river gravels in areas like Montana and North Carolina are well known for concentrating corundum. Instead of perfect textbook crystals, you'll usually deal with rounded grains, opaque to slightly translucent. In wet gravel, they stand out due to their glassy to submetallic luster, smoother surface, and especially their hardness. If you got any piece of glass, glazed ceramic, or even quartz on hand, you'll see that sapphire scratches them all with ease. A hardness of 9 on the Mohs scale means only diamond is harder than corundum. In the field, the pattern for searching black sapphire is to focus on heavy mineral concentrates. In river bends, behind natural obstacles, and in small depressions on the riverbed, slower currents favor the accumulation of high-density minerals: magnetite, garnet, spinel, ilmenite, and in some cases, corundum. When you wash down a bucket of gravel and end up with black sand and shiny grains, that's the time to slow down and look carefully. Corundum crystals tend to be rounded but still keep subtle faces and edges, often shaped like small cylinders or barrels, sometimes showing hexagonal cross-sections if the break is favorable. Even when they look completely black, if you hold them up to a strong light, you may see a very dark blue or smoky tone along the edge. The crucial test, besides hardness, is the lack of easy cleavage. Unlike minerals such as topaz or feldspar, corundum breaks in an irregular, uneven way. At home, with proper safety equipment, a small fragment can be tested with files and steel tools. While other stones scratch or break, sapphire basically shrugs it off. Finding true jewelry-grade black sapphire is not something that happens every day, but the logic is clear. The more time you spend working gravels in areas with a corundum history, the higher your chances that one of those dark, heavy grains in your pan is a real gemstone, not just iron oxide. No matter how similar it may look to sapphire, Spinel is one of those gems that spent a long time living in the shadow of more famous stones. For centuries, red spinel crystals were mistaken for rubies in royal crowns and historic jewelry. But spinel has always been a distinct mineral. Today, the market recognizes spinel as a noble gemstone, with colors ranging from intense red to blue and very dark shades, including black and nearly black varieties that are heavily used in contemporary jewelry. In the field, black spinel appears mainly in metamorphic rocks, like calc-silicate marbles, skarns, and some gneisses, as well as in alluvial concentrates that drain these rocks. Mineralogically, spinel is a magnesium aluminum oxide that can contain other elements which change its color. Its hardness is around 8 on the Mohs scale, lower than corundum, but still much higher than most common rocks. In well-formed crystals, it tends to show octahedral shapes, sometimes with slightly curved faces. When it's black, it can be confused with magnetite or dark garnet. The difference comes down to luster and a few simple field tests. In the field, a practical way to look for spinel is to target geological markers of metamorphosed marble with dark veins, skarn zones along contacts between igneous intrusions and carbonate rocks, or gravels that drain those units. In many cases, spinel appears together with minerals like diopside, forsterite, phlogopite, and andradite garnet, and sometimes corundum as well. That association alone tells you you're in a high-temperature environment, ideal for forming gemstones. In the gravel, black spinel grains stand out with their glassy to submetallic luster and compact, smooth shapes. A magnet test helps separate spinel from magnetite. Magnetite reacts strongly, while spinel generally is not attracted or reacts only very weakly. Hardness is another clue. If you scratch it with a piece of quartz, you'll notice that spinel is tougher than most rocks, although corundum can still scratch it. In a lab or under a loupe, fracture patterns and crystal faces make identification even easier. For you as a gem hunter, the idea is simple. In regions known for marble and skarn, any shiny, heavy black grain that doesn't jump to a magnet and feels very hard should be treated as potential spinel, not just another black rock. The next gem can be found in many types of silica-rich ground. When people talk about black opal, those who know where these gems come from usually think right away of the Australian deserts, which really do produce some of the most valuable opals in the world. So yes, if you live there, your chances are higher. But the logic behind black opal formation, a dark body with play of color, repeats itself in other regions too, including volcanic zones in the United States, like parts of Nevada and Idaho, where there are opals with clear to translucent body color and, in some cases, darker, good quality material. Even if American stones don't always reach the same prices as Australian ones, the geological principle is the same, and that's what matters for you in the field. You can also find other valuable opal colors by following the same signs. To do that, you need to understand that opal forms when silica-rich solutions, specifically rich in amorphous silica and water-filled cavities in volcanic rocks, fissures, and fractures. That's why some opals are found as petrified wood or even fossils with play of color. In fractured basalts and rhyolites, cavities that were once gas bubbles end up being slowly filled with silica and water. When the resulting material has a dark body color and shows internal play of color, those green, blue, and red flashes, you're looking at precious opal. And if the body is truly dark, it falls into the black opal category. In the field, though, you're not going to see a perfect jewelry face right away. You'll see nodules and veins with a milky to dark look, often with a pale outer crust. Walking through volcanic rock areas, especially where there are reports of geodes, agates, and common opal, it's worth checking any cavity filled with translucent to opaque material with a glassy to waxy appearance. Rounded nodules with a dark interior, when broken, can reveal opal zones. Hardness helps you separate opal from common glass and chalcedony. Opal has a hardness around 5.5 to 6, which is softer than quartz. That means a quartz point will scratch opal more easily, while chalcedony holds up longer. The big caution here is not creating unrealistic expectations. High-value black opal is rare, but once you understand the host rock type, the pattern of cavities, the dark silica veins, and the hardness differences, you greatly increase your chances of not walking past material that, once cut, can have good value for artisan jewelers or collectors. And even if the opal you find isn't a world-class stone, it's an excellent way to understand how the same process, in different geological settings, produces some of the most expensive gems on the planet. After going through black sapphire, black spinel, dark garnets, dark-bodied opal, and gem-quality black tourmaline, it's clear that black stone is not a synonym for worthless material. In many geological settings, the most discreet, dark, and apparently dull stones are the ones that carry higher density, higher hardness, and in the end, greater potential value in jewelry. A dark, heavy grain in your pan might be corundum. A black octahedral crystal in marble gravel might be spinel. A nodule with a dark, shiny interior in volcanic rock might hide opal. A striated black crystal in pegmatite might be tourmaline, ready to become a cabochon. And those little black balls in schist might be garnets, just waiting for a lapidary wheel to bring out their shine. Think about realistic situations. You're on a road trip across the interior of the United States, driving through a region with signs pointing to old mines, sapphire deposits, or volcanic fields. Tourists stop for photos and keep going. You, with what you've learned here, can walk a few yards down to a creek, fill a small pan with gravel, concentrate the heavy minerals, and calmly separate each dark grain. It's not magic, it's applied knowledge. In the same way, when you pass a road cut where a white pegmatite vein slices through darker rocks, you already know those black columns might indicate quality tourmaline. And on volcanic rock fields with cavities filled by silica, you know they're not just decorative geodes. They may hide opal with real gem potential. At the same time, it's important to accept that hunting for precious gems is a game of statistics. For every truly valuable sapphire, spinel, or opal someone finds, there are dozens or hundreds of ordinary stones that had to be examined and discarded. And that's exactly where the question that keeps your curiosity alive comes in. What if, in the next batch of gravel you wash, the one black grain you almost throw away is actually a sapphire? What if that dark octahedral crystal you thought was ugly is actually gem-quality spinel? What if that volcanic nodule you almost kicked aside is a piece of black opal just waiting to be cut? To avoid relying only on memory and intuition, you need solid reference material. That's why I directly recommend the book Gemology Journey for Beginners, available on Amazon. It organizes exactly this kind of knowledge, with tables of hardness, density, luster, and practical identification examples. And in return, you help keep this project going. But if this isn't the right time for that, no problem. You can subscribe for free and watch the next video popping up on your screen right now, where you'll see, in real time, other brand new techniques for prospecting natural gemstones out in the field. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, gem hunter.